Well, it's beautiful with spacious skies, has amber waves of green, and has purple mountains majestic that rise up out of the plains. And all across America, from sea to shining sea, where the mountains and the prairies meet, is a place I need to be. Home is where Montana is my home. From mountain peaks to prairie lands, the places I have known. And I'm bound.
Welcome to the Backroads of Montana. I'm William Marcus. Today we're on the banks of the Missouri River. On July 19, 1805, the Corps of Discovery, led by Captains Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, passed this point. As they toiled upstream, they came upon these towering limestone cliffs. Lewis called them the gates of the mountains. He wrote in his journal, "This evening we entered much the most remarkable cliffs that we have yet seen. These cliffs rise from the water's edge on either side perpendicularly to the height of 1,200 feet. Every object here wears a dark and gloomy aspect." Throughout the show, we'll see more of this majestic area, and we'll take you to other places in Big Sky Country. The central theme of today's show is that natural phenomenon which fills the Big Sky, wind. In Helena, they rely on the wind to keep their annual kite festival afloat. In Kalispell, glider pilots study the wind and air to reach breathtaking heights. We'll breathe the crisp alpine air on a quick trip to Glacier National Park, and we'll travel to Absarokee and visit a ranching family who produce the best defense against a chilly Montana wind, wool. But first we meet a man who uses the centrifugal force produced by the wind to spin around on the ice. It's the same force he uses to make a living.
I've got this kind of theory about a lot of these things that I do, and it has to do with centrifugal force. You know, it's like the force of the turns when you're skiing or the turns when you're skate sailing. The feel of your body against the wind or whatever it is that gives you that kind of intense pleasure. When you're actually making the pots, there's a lot of centrifugal force involved in it as you pull the walls of the clay up, and it has that same sort of feeling. It feels good about it.
There seems to be a force that keeps 50-year-old Jim Emerson active. Most winter nights you'll find Jim busily glazing pots for his pottery business. But during the day, that force pushes Jim out of the house and in search of another wintertime activity. On the windiest days, Jim goes skate sailing. A group of friends talked Jim into trying the sport.
I couldn't believe it. They said, you better try it. So I tried it, and boy, I was hooked instantly.
Those same friends helped Jim design and build the sail.
Very simple, elegant design, and it works great.
It only takes about 5 minutes to put the sail together. 2 wooden poles, some plastic tubing to keep the sail tight. And then there's the padding, first for the sail, then for Jim.
I don't recommend this sport to people that don't like pain.
Some good old-fashioned duct tape keeps the pads tight to his body. Jim laces up a pair of hockey skates and adds the final piece of equipment.
This is the most essential pad.
Now all that's left is handling an unpredictable wind and unforgiving ice.
I don't think of myself as a thrill seeker, although I guess this is probably the most thrill-seeking sort of thing that I do.
Jim grew up in the Flathead Valley and says the principles of sailing on water apply to this sport. On a blustery day, he can reach speeds of 30 miles per hour, although going slowly doesn't guarantee safety.
That was a crack. Fortunately, I was going nice and slow. Whew. It's very scary. It's really scary because you know that you could crash, and if you do, it's going to be very painful. It's a real exciting sport when the wind blows. Even when it's a moderate wind, it's a lot of fun. When it's blowing really hard, it's very, very exciting.
But the real thrill isn't how fast you go. It's conquering a Montana winter, taking a windy, icy day and making a sport out of it. So next winter you might find Jim glazing pots at night. But during the day, that force will push him back outside, searching for a consistent wind and a small piece of blue Montana sky. A sail would have been helpful to the Corps of Discovery. For Lewis and Clark, these steep rocky cliffs made towing from the shore impossible, and the deep channel forced them to row instead of pole their boats forward. Our passage today is made easier by our tour boat. It's named after Nicholas Hilger and his first boat, the Rose of Helena, which he launched in 1886 to begin his tour business. This boat was launched 100 years later. It's called the Hilger Rose. Well, another use for wind is just plain fun. At any kite festival, air and wind are essential for good flying. But participants at this year's Helena Kite Festival got more than they bargained for. It's amazing what some simple scraps of paper and string can do, and sometimes what they can't. But you can always find both at the annual Helena Kite Festival. This is the 7th year for the community-based event, and it's a field day for the young and the young at heart. For fathers and sons,
up, there goes, see the kite down?
And for first-time flyers.
Yeah, this is the first kite that he's ever flown. He thinks this is pretty fascinating.
Construction booths offer help from the simplest design.
You take a grocery bag, tie the handles with a string across the middle. That actually, of the easy kites, that flies the best.
To more advanced models.
Oh, hold on to it.
There's also a kite hospital for any unfortunate aerial mishaps.
We have tape, string, things like that they might need if they break.
At any kite festival, there are numerous hazards to avoid. Trees and power lines, and sometimes older brothers.
They're leaving!
Successful flying means keeping an eye out for cannibalistic kites.
Shark already took out one, broke the string on somebody's, and I think it's down there somewhere.
And kite-hungry pets.
The dog's name is Beauty, and she's half pit bull and half a beagle, so she's a pit beagle. Loves to swim and chase kites, and occasionally she catches them.
The biggest variable is, of course, wind. And today, the gentle rustling of paper in a calm breeze was cut by the cry of,
The gale!
In the strong wind, fabric ripped and strings snapped, sending kites to their doom. Many families fled or took immediate shelter. Chaos reigned.
Whoa, boy, we were asking for wind and it just came. It's windy. People have their coats on and they're still staying.
But as they say, if you don't like the weather in Montana, stick around for 10 minutes. Soon things settle down to a manageable gust. Mothers and daughters return to the field, kites return to the air, and happiness is tension on your string, and 100 feet of big sky between your favorite kite and beauty. The Helena Kite Festival benefits child care partnerships and wouldn't be possible without the help of area businesses. We're taking a breather at the Meriwether Campground. It's believed that Lewis and Clark camped here in 1805, again from Lewis's journal. It was late in the evening before I entered this place and was obliged to continue my route until sometime after dark before I found a place sufficiently large to encamp my small party. If you look up, you're likely to spot an eagle, an osprey, or a falcon circling high above. Our next story takes us to Kalispell, where man-made craft circle above in the same graceful manner.
Yes, we got to keep it clean so we can watch for the birds we soar next to.
It seems like the members of the Glacier Eagles Soaring Club are always talking about birds, and for a good reason. Just like their feathered friends, these soaring enthusiasts use the energy of the sky to lift them into flight. Since 1991, members of the club have offered demonstration rides and basic instruction, all to promote the sport of soaring. Attracting new members is as easy as getting people to look up.
And it was just awesome. You just stand and look at the gliders and it's like, whoa, that is so neat. You watch them, it's like birds.
Father's Day is the club's busiest event of the year. During most of the day, they have 2 gliders circling the skies over Kalispell. thrilling crowds, and keeping towplane operator John Slater a busy man.
Yeah, pull this thing in, get ready for the next one.
The goal in soaring is simply to stay aloft as long as possible. This is accomplished by using thermals, or lifting pockets of warm air. Our Backroads crew followed seasoned glider pilot and Soaring Club member Kurt Kleiner. While waiting for the air over Kalispell to heat, Kurt spent the time checking out the aircraft.
The glider we're using is a Blanik L-13. The Blanik L-13 is a Czechoslovakian model that was imported probably 20 years ago. It's become a very popular two-place glider. It's a docile one to learn in, so instructors like it for teaching.
Under the Blanik, you'll find mechanics Mike and Mark, servicing the landing gear and grumbling beneath their breath.
Czechoslovakian parts.
Once the mechanics were through, it's out to the runway for a second mechanical check.
Trim is set for takeoff, gear down and locked.
Safety instructions to any passenger, a small strip of duct tape.
Close.
Hook up to the tow plane and...
Giving him a rudder wag in order to signal that we are ready to take off.
The release altitude will be 4,500 feet. On the way up, Kurt will match each action of the tow plane. This is the trickiest aspect of soaring and takes novice pilots the longest to master. As we climb higher, a breathtaking panorama begins to unfold.
As we gain altitude, if you look off to the west, you can see all the way to the Cabinet Mountains. On a clear day, get a pretty good visual of them. To the northeast, we can see all the way up to Glacier National Park. The Whitefish Range is the predominant range north of town. And looking back to the south, we'll get views of Flathead Lake and the Mission Mountains.
Finally, we're cut loose. John's tow plane peels left and we peel right, hunting for thermals.
It's always a nice, peaceful feeling once you get off tow because you slow down, the wind's not as loud, and you really are in control of your flight at that point.
As peaceful as it is, Kurt is constantly measuring the sky for rising and falling air, checking the variometer for rate of lift, noting any desirable landing sites, and yes, looking for birds.
If you do see birds at this altitude, they've probably gotten here because they've been working some thermals, and nearby there would be some lift. That's just one way that makes you feel a little bit close to nature when you don't have the engine and you're up here flying and staying aloft in the same manner that the birds are. Now here we've flown into a thermal. We're going to go ahead and start slowing the glider down and turning in it and see if we can maintain some altitude in it and stay in it.
Kurt believes that learning to stay aloft without an engine sharpens his judgment and tests his basic flying skills. As a result, he feels more confident when he's flying powered aircraft.
Kalispell City traffic glider 99925 on left base for 3.
In soaring, the only uncertainty is knowing how long you'll stay up. Eventually, we run out of warm air. Kurt selects the correct glide angle, and we float gently down. And into the hands of more club members, anxious for their chance to soar with the birds.
It's all what the old-timers would call seat of the pants flying.
While we were waiting for the mechanics to fix our glider's landing gear, we took an exhilarating trip into the sky with Larry Baer. As a flight instructor for the Glacier Eagles, Larry was eager to impress us with the aerobatic abilities of his glider. But before we begin, pull the restraints on your safety belt as tight as you possibly can.
And I'm going to start out with a simple loop. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're going to do a human 8. And we're going to roll right here. So we'll forward stick, left rudder, left stick, back. Fun, huh? Okay, we'll just roll upside down. Okay, how's that? That's great. Are the wings still on? Oh yeah, this is a very strong machine. Okay, so we're gonna stall here. There it is. Then we'll slow roll. This thing slow rolls very slowly. Yahoo! Hammerhead type turn. Now you're going to hear some really dead silence. Beautiful, huh? Okay, this is called a clover leaf. It's a looping turn. Notice we were perpendicular to the railroad tracks, parallel. Perpendicular. Back to parallel. We're done. Now if we could just find a thermal and go back up and do it again.
To my right is Man Gulch. On August 5th, 1949, 13 smoke jumpers perished when they were entrapped by a wildfire just east of here. The fires have long since cooled, but the tragic events of Man Gulch continue to influence wildfire safety and suppression tactics. Any boat trip of the Gates of the Mountains is sure to feature bighorn sheep and mountain goats. You won't have to look hard to spot them in this next story when we take you to Glacier National Park. For the Corps of Discovery, these massive walls seemed certain to block any passage. Yet each bend along the river seemed to open like a giant door as the expedition drew near. Lewis writes, "The towering and projecting rocks in many places seem ready to tumble on us. From the singular appearance of this place, I called it the Gates of the Mountains." For our next story, we'll get out of the wind and visit a ranch family who lives 7 miles west of Absarokee. In their own words, you'll hear the pros and cons of the sheep business from 3 generations of the Thompson family. And you'll meet their Peruvian ranch hands, brothers Oscar and Marcelino.
Well, I've only got about 1,000 acres left for them to run on. That's why I'm cutting way down.
How many head of sheep do you have here on the ranch?
Oh, I'm way down. I only got 350. I sold out. They're from Peru, and this Oscar works for me, and Marcelino works for my neighbor. They're brothers. There's a lot of that come out of Peru. We belong to that western range, and they bring sheep herders out of every country. But these happen to be out of Peru, you know, and they can come in and stay for 3 years, and then they got to go back for a couple of months, and then they can come back for another 3 years. Boy, they love it, you know. There's money to them here. They send all their money then home to their wives because they don't have any expenses here.
How many sheep an hour do you think you can get finished with when they're shearing like this? Looks like they're moving pretty fast.
Oh, I don't know. I never timed them, but they got, 75 in a day. It all depends on how big a crew you got. But they're automatic sackers, you know. They're not like this old-time way.
Ready for another one?
Yeah. Getting full, Blake. I know, but you have to get it pushed down real far. So you just sort of walk on the sides, and then it sort of rolls in.
Who's the better stomper?
He is. Because I'm experienced. This is my first time. Get off my foot. It's not like I can help it.
Where do you start shaving them first?
Right down the stomach. They clean the stomach off, and then they start around the back and take the foretop off, because that wool has got to be separate, the belly wool. That's the way the wool buyers want it. That's the way they done it in Peru. Yeah, they're fast shearers.
This is probably my 3rd shearing that I've actually combed the wool. Most of the time we have a hired crew come in with their own hydraulic ram, and it stuffs it hydraulically. That costs money. Yeah. And I'm cheap labor when it comes to that guy, you know.
There's a lot of small sheep men, you know, or that have a few sheep around, but it's getting so tough anymore that
it's in the blood, and you don't want to get out, but you got to do other things too in order to survive.
I've paid off and bought and sold, and I still owe on this one right here.
You borrow money and you borrow money, and come fall when you sell the lambs and the calves, hopefully that will take care of all the money that you borrowed.
Oh, they fight. Some of them just fight like the devil. Others are pretty good, but you get some that are ornery. You see, this is the belly, and that's got to be sacked separate. If they don't pay, yours about half price for the belly. I'm up before daylight, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm tired. You either got, if you're going to stay, you either got bigger or get out. I'm shutting way down, though. I've had it.
I just help him out when he needs help.
How do you think your dad's doing these days?
Real good for his age, you know. He don't stop. I'm afraid if he does, there's no retirement in his future that I can see. He likes to ranch, and that's where he's going to be.
Despite the problems, Wally's love for the land is apparent. We're sure he'll be ranching for years to come. Well, that's our show. We'd like to thank Tim Crawford and the crew at the Gates of the Mountains Boat Tours. Cruises through this historic area are available Memorial Day through September. If you have an interesting story for Backroads, we'd like to hear from you. Write to us at the Backroads of Montana, University of Montana, Missoula, Montana, 59812. And thanks for watching. I'm William Marcus. See you next time.
It's a land of many waters coming down from mountains high. And there's a mighty big sky up above us here. You can hear them coyotes crying. And there's plenty of room for moving and plenty of fresh air. And the folks out here have the time of day and a helping hand to share. Home is where Montana is my home. From mountain peaks to prairie lands, the places I have known. And I'm bound to ramble, yes, I'm bound to roam. And when I'm in off the road now.
This program was made possible by production support from the Greater Montana Foundation, Travel Montana, and the University of Montana.
Home.